Hello everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Tom. I am a content creator with a passion for Formula 1. I've been playing this game for around 5 years, and recently this year actually I qualified for the F1 Esports Pro Draft. I will be going over what you need to learn when driving no assist. I'm going to teach you all of the little quirks, and hopefully you'll be able to be a little bit better after I finished. Let's get into it. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be talking about 3 different subjects which are going to be very important, learning no assist in the F1 2020 game, as well as in racing in general. So the first one is going to be racing line, second one is going to be braking, and the last one is going to be traction. They've all been timestamped as well, so if you look at the video timeline, you will be able to see, and you can just skip to whichever one you have the most interest in. So if you want to skip to one of those, you can do it. You won't hurt my feelings, I promise. The track that I've chosen to use is Austria. Austria is actually one of the easiest tracks to learn, as well as Austria has both slow, medium and high speed corners, so it's going to be the easiest for you to learn it as well as me to explain every single bit that you need to know to become faster with no assist on F1 2020. First off, we have the racing line, and with racing line we're going to be talking both about the assist as well as how you should approach corners in general. So in terms of racing, you want to be approaching the corner from the outside to the inside, which is also called hitting the apex. You might have heard of this word apex. What you want to do is you want to make the track as wide as possible. As you can see over here, I go all the way to the left, which actually helps me in going through the corner, hitting the apex, and actually exiting out of the corner all the way on the outside as well, so I can carry the maximum amount of speed through the corner, which you want to do as well. You want to keep the car rolling through the corners, which will allow you to carry much more speed, which is gonna help you with the exit speed, and you're gonna carry all that exit speed all the way onto the straight, which is going to gain you a lot of time. We are going to go over the braking a little bit later, but remember, also for taking the racing line, slow in, fast out. Don't go in too quickly, because it will hinder you in rolling the car through the corner. Slow in, keep the car rolling, and then you can have a better exit, gain more traction, speed on the straight, and it'll gain more time in the end. Second tip for the racing line is do not accelerate too early when going into a corner. Normally, new players, and I was one of these players as well when I started driving, new drivers, what they tend to do is they go into a corner, brake hard, and then whenever they go through a corner, they actually go onto the power a little bit too early or a little bit too hard. And what that'll do with the car is it will give it a lot more understeer. And if you don't know what understeer means, it means that the car won't turn in as much, and because you're accelerating a lot harder than you should, the car just goes out wide and doesn't really want to turn in. So don't accelerate too hard. Of course, keep the car rolling, like I said before, and just gradually get your foot on the accelerator, and then you will be able to turn the car a lot quicker and a lot faster. So you can get on the accelerator earlier. So you don't want to be on the accelerator straight away. Do it a little bit later, and you're gonna be faster. In terms of the racing line assist, you want to be finding vantage points in terms of where you want to brake. And this is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, assists to actually turn off in the end. It took me around 4 months to actually gain back my pace that I had before I had the racing line disabled. So basically what you want to do is you want to find vantage points for every single track actually, because it's track specific. What you can do is you can actually look at the brake marker boards. Normally a good vantage point in terms of braking normally it depends on the corner, of course, in terms of how hard the braking zones are, but for the average braking zone, the 100-meter board is a good braking zone. But for every track, it is track specific. One thing that you should not do is find a vantage point which is actually shadows, because shadows change whenever the time of day changes as well. So in one session you might see yourself braking at the maybe like 75 meters before the corner, but maybe whenever it's evening you're actually braking 25 meters before the corner, and then you're gonna absolutely brake way too late. So don't use the shadows, use the braking boards, or maybe like billboards that are on the track. Everything that is static you can use for braking boards. If you'd like me to actually make track guides in terms of braking zones and stuff for that, then make sure you leave a comment below, because I'm willing to do that if you guys are up for it as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the second subject that I'm going to be discussing with you guys, which is braking. There's 2 types of corners that I'm going to go over today. which is divided into hard braking zones as well as medium/low braking zones. Before I tell you what to do in both hard braking zones and low braking zones, I am going to tell you what ABS is and why people are actually having a hard time getting used to ABS. ABS is the anti-lock brake system on the car, which actually allows you to not lock up your tires whenever you're braking too hard when braking into a corner. If you have that system disabled, you'll find that if you keep the brakes down too much when you're going a little bit further into the corner, that you will actually lock up the brakes and you'll overshoot the corner. There's multiple techniques actually which you can use that will actually help you to not lock up the brakes, which I'm gonna go over right now. The first one being trail braking. Whenever you approach a corner, what you want to do, especially in the hard braking zones, what you want to do is you want to approach the corner, stamp the brakes at first, get that initial slowdown, and then whenever you get closer to the corner, gradually release the brakes, and you'll find that you'll actually have a shorter braking distance, as well as you'll not lock up the brakes as much. In medium and low braking corners, a tip that I could give you is brake less when you start turning more. I am going to be explaining that right now on the screen, as I'm going to be demonstrating what the difference is between braking in a straight line and braking while turning. The first one is going to be braking while going in a straight line. You can see over here, I'm absolutely stamping the brakes and something happens, but only at the end, which as you can see, I lock up the brakes a little bit, but it is not that much. Now let's take a look at when I actually turn in while I am braking. And you can see the results are actually shockingly amazing. While I turned in the car, the brakes just absolutely did not want to cooperate, and I absolutely locked the brakes massively, multiple times. So one of the best tips I could give you is do not, or try to minimize the turning while braking. Of course, there are corners, you have to turn, but just keep it gradually. Do not brake as much while you are turning the car. That is the number one rule. Whenever you are braking, do not turn as much. Whenever you start to turn, gradually release the brakes. One tip I could give you for the ABS system, because of course you do not have the ABS system or you can lock up the brakes, try and avoid the curbs if you're having a hard time. The curbs will actually force you into having more vibrations in the car and will result in some more lockups on the car. So if you're having a hard time, try and avoid the curbs a little bit. Try and brake on the asphalt itself, it will help more. With the braking as well, there's actually an impact in terms of the elevation changes. Whenever you are braking and the track actually goes upwards, you will have a shorter braking zone than that you would normally have when you are braking with a horizontal track surface. Whenever you're going downwards into the braking zone, you'll actually have a longer braking zone. So try and look at the elevation changes. You will find that the braking zones actually differ judging off of their elevation changes. Now the last subject we're gonna go over is traction, which is probably the hardest one and actually the one that most of you guys are actually having the most troubles with. So with traction, what the key or the secret is, and you're probably gonna say like, what? Of course, what are you saying? So the secret of traction is gradually applying the throttle, which will come and it will be your second nature as you go and practice. Practice makes perfect for this one, especially with the traction. One tip I can give you as well is accelerate in a straight line. If you accelerate while you are still turning, the car isn't that planted to the asphalt yet. So you want to start accelerating as much as you normally would whenever the car is actually pointing in a straight line, which will help you a lot in gaining the traction as well. The best way to find traction on track when having no assist is short shifting. Short shifting is a principle where you shift the car into a higher gear at the non-optimal point, so whenever the revs are still low. So for example, what I always do on my stream when I try to explain this thing is with short shifting, when you actually shift the car into the next gear, it makes this sound. But normally at the optimal revs, it makes this sound. Basically that. But I'll show you it right on the screen right now. Basically what you want to do is you want to shift the car into the next gear whenever there's still low revs in the car, which will actually make the car more stable coming out of the corners, which will help you in finding the traction. So upshift when you're hearing and not okay. Now let's go to fuel, because fuel will actually help you to have better traction as well. Believe it or not, if you put the fuel at lean mix, you will gain more traction out of the corners, as the car will not go into higher revs as quick as it normally would. With the ERS mode, it actually is the same. If you are in the overtake mode, it will be a little bit more skittish on the exit. So if you are not in the overtake mode on the exits, then you will have more traction. Try and hold off on using your overtake mode until you know you've got the traction. Then you can pop on the overtake mode and you'll have more traction coming out of the corners, and of course more speed coming onto the straight as well. But with the overtake mode and the ERS mode, the optimal time to actually use it is coming out of corners. So if you're wondering when should I use the ERS mode or deploy my ERS mode, coming out of the corners is the way to go, but do not use it yet while you are still accelerating. Just try and use it once you know you have the traction and you know you can just slam it, and it will actually help you gain more top speed coming onto straights. Now this is all I had to say for today, but if you would like to see me do more in-depth stuff about maybe just only the braking or only the traction or only the racing line, then make sure you leave a like below and actually let me know in the comments. Also, if you would like to find me live and talk to me while I play F1 2020, then make sure you follow my Twitch, because we stream very regularly and I would love to see you in there. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you liked it and want to see more in the future. But for now, I will see you later. Peace out. Bye bye.